So this is our lesson for today. Book of Wisdom, Volume 1.
I'm unstoppable. I'm a fortune with no breaks. I'm invincible.
Okay, because I have the first volume and I have the second volume, so that we can dive into this information together. Of course, you know, when we do this, our goal is to grow, learn, and evolve. There's a lot of this I already know. I can just tell from what I've already read, but I am hoping to learn something new. Like, that is always my hope when we are going over spiritual wisdom, is to learn something brand new. Okay. And of course, this isn't any like how do you say this? This isn't any shots fired at the author, but we always take things with a grain of salt. Okay. Because we don't want to just allow anything into our subconscious and accept anything as truth, right? So we always have to listen to our intuition, use our discernment, and really decode what it is the text is trying to tell us. Okay. Whatever it is you're reading, whether it be the Bible, the Torah, okay, books like this, okay, our Be Here Now book. Okay. We always have to do that, just because, you know, we just don't want to accept anything. Right. And then you find out later it's not truth. You know, we already did that when we started our spiritual journeys. Right. So there's no more of that. Okay. Exactly. All right. So we've already went over the first 2 pages. Yeah. The first 2 pages. All right. So this is a segue from the last page about Christ oil. And I want you to remember that Christ oil in the physical is the spinal fluid. Okay, so it's going to be talking about the spine a lot, because the spinal fluid is what activates your pineal gland. Okay, your pineal gland is your third eye. Okay, these are things that have this is why I say that spirituality and science are one. Okay, because, you know, science is explained spirituality, explained magic, right? Whereas spirituality is unexplained science, unexplained magic. Okay. Remember, once upon a time, all the stuff that science explains now, they couldn't explain once upon a time. So, therefore it was considered magic or hoopla or something that was taboo. Okay. So again, spirituality, science, same thing. Okay. They coincide. When you hear about how Darwin used his connection with God universe to come up with the evolution theory, okay, because he was a religious man, and you know, he didn't want to release the evolution theory because of how religious he was. And he just thought he was going to get a lot of backlash from the religious community saying that it was evolution theory. But at the same time, divine intelligence planted that into his brain and told him to run with it. And that if he didn't run with it, there was another scientist who was meditating in the forest and had the same concept of the idea of evolution. And that scientist came to Darwin and was like, hey, you know, I've been having these thoughts, these divine thoughts that, you know, how everything happened was evolution. Okay. Because remember, you know, this planet has been around for billions of years. Okay. And how we see time is not the same way God universe sees time. Okay. So what we think takes billions of years took God universe days. Right. And so our time schedules are not the same. Right. Human time is not the same as the divine's time. All right. So that's why we can say something like evolution occurred, because to God, it wasn't like a slow evolution as we try to depict it, but it was like a fast creation. Okay. So Darwin had to step up, because when that other scientist told him what he was thinking and that he was having coming to the same conclusions as him, that's when he realized that he had to speak up and say something about it. Because like I said, God universe always has a backup plan. If you don't do what God universe tells you to do, God universe has a backup plan to get that information out there. Okay. Always. Right. So if you don't want to be the one to do it, God universe said, that's fine. I got little bro over here, little sis over here, that they're willing to do this and put this information out. I need soldiers. I need people who are going to actually spread the message I'm trying to get out. I don't need people who are going to sit on information for 5, 10, 15 years. And then we have to slow down the process of how you guys are advancing. Okay, so there's always a backup plan. All right. And that's why when God Universe gets you on purpose and mission, it's just good to stick with it. Okay. All right, but let's get into the text. I'll be talking, but it all goes into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just remember. Okay, I might go on my tangents, but it's all connected to what we're about to talk about. Okay. Because we're talking about Christ oil. Okay. So Jesus was crucified at the Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. This represents Jesus on the cross, okay, so symbolically aligned with the midbrain. And as you can see here, this is connecting the left and the right hemisphere, okay, of the brain, right? And there's a lot of information because I want to tell you there's a lot of different ways of interpreting Jesus's crucifixion. All right, not just like in this sense, but also the reasons why he was crucified. Okay, how he is going to go into here about the 33 vertebrae, but it's also because Jesus' mission was to awaken all the souls, okay? It's just humanity wasn't ready at that time to really allow for the information that Jesus was trying to teach to come through in the way that the divine truly had. But he planted the seeds, okay? And he allowed for the collective consciousness to really be what it is today, okay? Because as you can see in the Bible times, not everyone had divine access to the Lord. A lot of people were cut off from that collective consciousness as, whatever happened in their past life got their divine access revoked. But Jesus's crucifixion allowed for everyone else to have that connection again. That's why we are now all connected through the collective consciousness, and you just have to pay attention and really focus on it, and God Universe will speak to you through there. Okay. All right. So goes the Christ oil ascends through the 33 vertebrae of the spine and then crosses the vagus nerve, which forms an intersection. Okay. I literally was just explaining this earlier. I'm going to highlight it though, because this is literally what I was just telling you. They're calling it, the author is calling it the Christ oil, but it's literally your spinal fluid. Okay, there's a physical form for this Christ oil. There's always a spiritual definition for it, but the spiritual always has a physical definition for it as well. Okay. Jesus was crucified at 33 because this symbolized the crucifixion of the Christ oil as it completes its journey through the 33 vertebrae and crosses the vagus nerve, representing spiritual transformation and ascension. Okay. I would say that's mostly true. Because when you get into the science of it, here, he's talking about here, right? And that is where most people believe the soul enters and exits from, is right here on this part of your neck. Okay. So some Bible verses here. So John 3:3, unless you are born again, you cannot see the kingdom of God. Talking about rebirth here. Oh, sorry. It went into that literally the next sentence. If I just read, okay, I'll see you in a little bit. So it is no coincidence that John 3 speaks of being reborn. This rebirth occurs when the sacred oil ascends past the 33 vertebrae of the spine, symbolizing spiritual awakening and transforming into higher consciousness. Okay, but you have to go at each vertebrae at a time. I would definitely say that this is the journey of the gates of men through the gates of God, which we went over in our etymology discussion on YouTube. So when we start breaking down, when there's a video in Boss Up playlist that talks about etymology, but it's also talking about a lot of different spiritual topics in which how do I want to say that? Sorry, just blanked on how I was going to say the sentence. But so because I was like, in which, no, that sentence don't make sense. I was like, that's not grammarly correct. So the video talks about why all those things are important for you to use etymology when breaking down and decoding the Bible. Okay, so that video goes over all these different spiritual topics, which is kind of why I want to say it kind of is the reason why I know most of the things in here, because of that like hour some long video of this call. She's a she, but she's a divine spirit, and she was going over a lot of these things, and she said it was very easy for her to figure this out once she used etymology to decode the Bible. Okay, and I honestly I agree with her, because it's literally in the text. So when people try to perpetuate the Bible in a certain way, and they're like, oh yeah, this, the Bible doesn't say that, but the Bible literally does talk about spirituality through and through, thick and thin. Like it's not sitting there telling you, it's not like it's hidden in there, but if you decode it, you can find it. Okay, like this John 3:3, unless you are born again, you cannot see the kingdom of God. This is talking about your rebirth. Okay, this is talking about opening your spiritual eye, to opening your third eye. Okay, this is because you have to put on spiritual lenses. You can't just look out of these lenses, right? So it's literally, and then so this rebirth occurs when the sacred oil ascends. This is the 33 vertebrae of the spine. Okay, this is also goes into Kundalini energy. Okay, because Kundalini energy is about getting that fluid stop mixing words up, Leah. Spinal fluid up the spine. Okay, getting that energy up the spine. Okay, that is what Kundalini meditation is about. All right, so sorry, it's like I can decide to whichever way to go, but we're gonna go down this way first, and then we'll hop this way. Okay, and I'm gonna show you guys pictures in a second. So the 33 vertebrae correspond to the 33 years of Christ / Christ oil. All right, so Jesus perishing at 33 symbolizes the transformation of matter into spirit and confirmation birth. So like that, the transformation of matter into spirit. Representing the sacred oil ascending beyond the 33 vertebrae, this signifies the sacrifice of the flesh. Okay, this is ego death. This is, your rebirth process. This is becoming enlightened to the point where, you realize, I mean, you don't have to be enlightened to know this, but it is, enlightenment is more so really moving out of your soul, more so than it is even where then it is moving out of your flesh. Okay, because you're not really focused on this experience like in the same way you are when you're moving out of your flesh and your ego, right? You realize that the soul is the one with the driving, okay, the car, right? And the experience is just the experience, because in actuality, that's all it is. Because we can't take these bodies with us. Okay, our souls are the divine energy that God placed in within us, and that's all that exists outside of this. Okay. This 33 vertebrae. Oh wait, that's the end of the sentence. This signifies the sacrifice of flesh the nature, the personality, allowing the manifestation of one's divine true self, God consciousness. If I literally just finished reading, right? So the sacrifice of the flesh, right? So what I said, your ego death. Okay, you are literally realizing that you are not your personality. Okay, you are not this vessel, right? You are much more than that. Okay, so whatever makes you whoever your name is, right? Like, okay, whatever makes Alea isn't what makes my soul, right? Okay. It's not the same thing. Okay. What makes your soul is not what makes up this personality, this ego, how we live in our flesh. Okay. It's not the same thing as when we reach God consciousness. All right. So we have Genesis. It goes into Genesis here, 32:30. Jacob named the place Peniel, for he said, I have seen God face to face. Now we went over that verse before when we were decoding the Bible. He literally said the place pineal, the pineal gland. Wait, where's your pineal gland? Okay, your pineal gland. Look at your center of your head. Go down this way, and it reaches all the way back this way. It's like a straight middle part. They do like this middle part of your brain. Like it's in that. You have these two sides of your brain, right? In that middle part here, your pineal gland sits. Okay. Hi, puppy. All right. So, like I said, your pineal gland is your third eye. There is scientific research to prove this. So I'm not even doubting bro on this one because there is research to prove that your third eye and your pineal gland are the same thing. All right. Third eye is more of an energetic term. Pineal gland is the physical scientific term for your third eye. All right. The pineal gland is the seat of consciousness, also referred as the throne of God. This gland is the gateway to higher awareness, inner vision, and divine connection. Okay, third eye right here, crown chakra right here. Okay, so kind of separate the two because divine connection comes directly from this, but being able to see this, okay, and make the dots of this connection, these two work hand in hand. Actually, these three work hand in hand. Your throat chakra, all right, because you get the messages, you see the messages, and then you say the messages. Okay, so it's like they work hand in hand. But yeah, let me show you the pictures of what we're talking about. All right. So this is 33 vertebrae, because there's 33 vertebrae in your spine. All right, and that the spinal fluid being the Christ oil, okay, moves up the spine and it unlocks your pineal gland to be able to see your spiritual eyes. Okay. So then they have this text from Jacob's Ladder. Okay, Jacob's Ladder is about the I can just read what it says, but I'm going to tell you what Jacob's Ladder is about before reading this. Okay, because Jacob's Ladder is about going through the gates of men to the gates of God. It is about going through, what is the gates of men to the gates of God? It is your chakras, okay? So your root chakra, your sacral chakra, your solar plexus chakra, your heart chakra, your throat chakra, your third eye chakra, your crown chakra, okay? Because you got to go through the gates of men, right? The physical reality to get to the spiritual, okay? To get to that spiritual connection, you have to align all of these like a ladder, okay? Up to 33 vertebrae, okay? Kundalini energy, right? And get to your third eye chakra where it unlocks this, okay? So that's what Jacob's Ladder is about. Talking about the spine, talking about your chakras. All right, and then it brings a verse to prove this information in Genesis 28, 10 through 22. It says, Jacob left Beersheba and went to Haran. The sun had already set when he came to a good place to spend the night. He took a rock there and he laid his head on it to sleep. Jacob had a dream. He dreamed that there was a ladder that was on the ground and reached up into heaven. I mean, it's literally there in the text. We've already gone over this part of Genesis when we decoded that part of the Bible. Okay, so that's why I said we didn't even have to read this. Hey, how you doing? Evelyn, how you doing? How you feeling? What's the vibe? Okay. Yeah, so we didn't have to really read this because we've already gone over this. But of course, I'm going to go over it again. Remember, guys, we speak love, justice, and peace. Y'all have a blessed day. Amen.